Hey everyone, and welcome back to the news, where we've got major stories because the ongoing legal battle between Epic and Apple has taken yet another turn, with Apple, well, appearing to have just completely lost patience because they are kind of considering going for the jugular. Yes, Unreal Engine, it is now in Apple's sights despite court warnings. So yeah, pretty big, and it actually could be that Apple could try to establish dominance to the point where they may go too far and actually set the court against them because, yes, they already had been warned. Elsewhere, though, the US government is also extending their campaign against Tencent, now actually being scrutinous of Tencent's, basically, their gaming interests that are within the USA. Now, you might think, I don't play any Tencent games and I'm in the USA. Well, if you've played, Roblox, which maybe you haven't, or say anything that Riot does, or say Activision Blizzard, then you're going to be caught up in this. So this actually is pretty darn major. And what I also think is pretty darn major is this month's Patreon merch. What a smooth segue. But hey, look, if you want to support us and also get some cool loot, including the Warrior pin and a whole bunch of art and a sticker delivered to your door, USPS times permitting, they've been a little bit funky lately, then hey, the Patreon's the place to do that. It's helping us expand our team, and that all just goes back into making more content for you. Patrons, thank you for your support, and with that, let's get into it, starting with Apple versus Epic. Okay, well, Apple, I think in line with them being just utterly uncompromising, they have doubled down on calling Epic's legal challenge self-sabotage, reiterating that Apple created the whole mess and that they can solve it by just abiding by Apple's rules, and saying that Epic are a saboteur, not a martyr. Yeah, pretty spicy, some nice creative language there, right? Getting people emotionally invested, it's all quite fun. But yes, basically, Epic recently requested that the courts forcibly reinstate Fortnite on iOS. And in response, Apple are going on the offensive again. And they're very much going for the jugular, arguing that Apple has to have the right to close all of Epic's dev accounts. And that would even include those that control the Unreal Engine. And that's where things could be very spicy. Apple's last attempt to go after Unreal Engine was, of course, blocked by the courts. Unreal Engine, technically, is operated by Epic Games International. That is a legally distinct entity from Epic Games, the one that operates Fortnite, where basically Epic Games International holds separate agreements with Apple, and technically that means that none of those have been violated. But still, from Apple's perspective, Epic is Epic, and Apple are citing security concerns as the rationale, basically saying that Unreal Engine could be used by Epic as basically another, like a second Trojan horse, to sneak things onto the App Store. Yeah, that is, of course, Apple being very unhappy over Epic Direct payments, which were essentially Trojan horsed in via a late-night hotfix to Fortnite. And yeah, that was a move dirty enough that Apple are not particularly happy about it, and they would worry that the Unreal Engine could be used to do similar things in the future, which they see as a bit of a threat. And basically, from their perspective, I mean, they even say, like, it could be malware. Now, is that going to be malware in a really sort of evil sense? No, but from Apple's perspective, yeah, you could see how they could consider Epic doing something a bit sneaky as being malware of a type. So let's think about the reasoning and justification here. I think Apple's reasoning is decently understandable, right? They don't trust Epic, fair enough. But I do think that taking action against Unreal Engine wouldn't really be that fair. Now, going after Unreal Engine when it technically hasn't done anything wrong, that would set a bit of an odd precedent for Apple's future dealings with any companies that operate multiple developer accounts. I think trust in Apple would go down. It would also be humongous across the gaming industry, and it would have a negative impact that hurts a lot more companies than just Epic. And that's, of course, why Microsoft backed Epic on the Unreal Engine front, and I'd hope that this would inspire others to do it as well, because Unreal taking a hit would hurt the entire industry, especially with UE5 looking pretty sweet and Unreal Engine being used for loads of iOS games. And the thing is that Apple are continuing to insist that they don't have a monopolistic grip over the market, but I think a lot of people would be in a situation where if Apple actually took out Unreal Engine on iOS effectively by removing the dev accounts and making it so that Epic can't keep Unreal Engine up to date with Apple, for developers who are making games with UE, they'd be really left in the lurch, right? Would they want to then move over to Unity where they know it's going to be an engine that will be supported by Apple over time? yes, they could do that, but it would cause a lot of financial harm. And I would say that maybe this isn't like a definition of a monopoly, but if Apple could make one decision for one engine and have a humongous industry-wide effect, I just think a lot of people would lose any sympathy they could have for Apple's arguments. And who knows, maybe that would extend to the court, who would see it from a context of, well, how much harm are these decisions actually causing? And is the harm specifically limited to only the company that Apple have got a grievance against? And in this case, yes, it would hurt Epic, but it would hurt so many other developers as well. Now, going back to Apple's justifications that they are, not monopolistic in the market, they're basically saying that devs have got loads of ways that they can distribute on iOS and also make money without paying Apple, with examples being advertising, physical goods, services, things like that. And those are all things that Epic actually do avail of. Apple is correct there. But I mean, also, let's just be real. I mean, the lion's share of the revenue does come from the in-app purchases, and that is the place where Apple, of course, makes their commission. But still, right? Apple, I think they're trying to have as narrow and specific a view of what constitutes monopolistic behavior as is possible. That legally does make a hell of a lot of sense. And they basically think that as soon as there is any form of alternative, almost regardless of viability, that they can't really be considered to be having a monopoly. Which, is just one of those tricky situations where legally they're probably fine, but maybe pragmatically it's a grey area, and we'll just have to see how that develops over time. Of course, this is somewhere where Apple are in multiple disputes. The big one is, of course, with Spotify, where Spotify have long been in direct competition with Apple Music, whilst simultaneously are reliant on Apple for distribution on iOS. Now, Spotify complain, as an example, that the recently announced Apple One bundle would be Apple throwing their weight around. Apple One is basically a bundle of Apple subscription services at a lower price, including music, and Spotify think that that is basically unfair. Whereas from Apple's perspective, well, they're basically just saying, hey, we're just offering our customers a great deal on all of our services on our platform. What's wrong with that? Spotify, you can still be on the App Store. So it's a sort of thing where, again, there it's like, when I think about it, yeah, why can't Apple just offer a bundle of their services? That seems like a reasonable thing that a business should be able to do. I think Spotify are maybe a little bit weaker there, but they do have pretty legitimate concerns about Apple's control over that. I suppose we just have to wonder, will it ever get to a situation where it's like with Internet Explorer, where of course Microsoft just got slapped all over the place for pre-installing Internet Explorer on machines. I mean, certainly, I'm pretty sure, was it Netscape Navigator? It was one of the biggest tech stocks. It was going way up. It was growing super fast, and then it just kind of went. And maybe you could argue that what Microsoft did with Internet Explorer was actually a part of why Netscape ended up going down, and maybe similar arguments will be made here. Who the hell knows? That's basically the situation. Now, there is some good news here. With Apple versus Epic, the hearing starts on the 28th, so we're in a bit of a chaos period right now, but we'll probably get some more concrete answers once that actually kicks off. Okay, next up, let's talk about the US and Tencent, because the US have escalated things a little bit. So, whilst the previous executive order campaign targeted Tencent's WeChat social platform, the latest round of things is a bit more directly aimed at Tencent's US gaming interests. Now, as we've covered numerous times on this channel, those interests are rather extensive. Tencent has investments in Riot, Epic, Activision Blizzard, Roblox Corp, and of course, others as well. So for this story, Bloomberg's report is confirming that the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, let's just call it CFIUS, that they sent letters to Epic, Riot, and others, questioning them on their protocols for securely handling Americans' personal information. Now, this move is, of course, a part of just a wider increase in US government security on, just any of those business interests that are operating in the US. Of course, you'll have all heard the situation with TikTok that's been going on as well. And the reasoning here is just the usual heightened security concerns. So with this, CFIUS, as we're going to call it, is typically concerned with health, financial, and government employee information. But basically, it's been widening its data focus recently, where an ex-Treasury employee has actually stated that there's usually reason for them to get involved when there's a large body of data. And when it, of course, came to the WeChat situation, the belief and the fear there was that information gathering could, facilitate some, not particularly above board things going on when it came to collecting lots of information and, just like corporate, sort of stealing trade secrets and just all of that jazz, right? So yes, there's just a bit more of a look here in the context of US gaming, and the fear is that, US gaming companies that are involved with Tencent could be at risk of forced divestment, in the same way that, of course, ByteDance have had to divest their US business interests, and that's why Oracle, who are a bit of a strange fit for TikTok, now are going to be owning TikTok. How weird. So, the CFIUS or whatever, they basically have the authority to block and unwind deals, and the same ex-Treasury employee actually said that the real question becomes whether the potential risk is high enough to actually warrant forcing deals apart. Now, the latest inquiry follows on from the TikTok ban drama, where, of course, ByteDance were given an ultimatum to either sell their US business operations or basically just face banishment from the US market, which really was quite a dramatic situation to be going on. So basically with this story, the data practices of a bunch of these companies is going to be looked at, and if they're not good, then yes, there could be some risks of forced divestment. Now, that forced divestment would be a little bit rough, especially for some of these companies who maybe have got their future plans, like hinged on what that investment allows them to do. Now, it's with NetEase, but of course you've got Bungie, right? They took a big investment from NetEase, which is letting them do a bunch of things. Imagine what a forced divestment would do there. Certainly is an interesting situation, and I think this is just going to be an ongoing theme in the industry, as, more governments and co are just a bit more suspicious of what's going on there. Who knows, right? This is, I think, just an ongoing broad theme that is now being applied to gaming. We will just have to see if anything happens, though, because I think this absolutely is, in the gaming context, pretty darn early days. And really, that's it for today's video. Very messy times indeed, right? I mean, with Apple versus Epic, man, I can't wait till we actually get some real court chat on that, instead of just these kind of, salvos being fired at each other via documentation. And, I mean, as for this sort of risk of forced divestment, man, I mean, if it did happen, that would be a bit wild, wouldn't it? I mean, wow, what would that mean for Riot? Would that mean that Riot would, have to be forcibly acquired by, a US company? I mean, if that happened, that would be really bizarre, especially considering how, it's 100% owned by Tencent. So crazy stuff going on potentially, and we'll just have to wait and see how it all comes to pass. That is it for today's video, though. So if you've enjoyed this dive into legal related things, hey, hit that sub button. You can check out the Patreon if you want to support us a bit more. And with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.